Call the council meeting to order, or the, let's see, Planning Advisory Committee meeting. Call it to order. And it is for any declaration of pecuniary interest. None noted. And this is an application for rezoning. South Park Lot 4, Concession 14, East Wallanash Ward, Township of North Huron, 86560 Curry Line. The owner is Albert Hassels. The applicant is Cuesta Planning. One, the purpose of this public meeting. The purpose of this public meeting is for the Planning Advisory Committee of the Township of North Huron to consult with the public on the zoning amendment identified above. Number two, the requirement for the public meeting. This public meeting is required to be held pursuant to the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended, which requires that council shall hold at least one public meeting and that all property owners within 120 meters or 400 feet of the area affected shall be given notice of the meeting by the clerk of the municipality. Pursuant to the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended, council shall forward to such boards, commissions, authorities, and other agencies as council considers may have an interest in the proposal sufficient information to enable them to understand it generally. Purpose of the zoning amendment. This proposed zoning amendment, bylaw amendment, affects the South Park Lot 40, Concession 14, East Wallanash Ward, Township of North Huron. The bylaw proposes to change the zoning to agricultural smallholding special zone, AG 4-8, and restricted agriculture, AG 2, from the general agriculture, AG 1. This application for rezoning is a condition of the consent file B65 2014, which severs a surplus farm dwelling. The severed lot being rezoned from AG 1 general agriculture to AG 4-8 agricultural small holding special zone. The special zone recognizes the deficient minimum lot frontage and deems it to comply. The severed parcel is approximately half a hectare or 1.35 acres and contains an existing dwelling and accessory shed. The retained parcel is being rezoned from AG 1 general agriculture to AG 2 restricted agriculture to prohibit any future construction of a residence as required by the provincial policy statement and North Huron official plan as a condition of a surplus residence severance. The retained farmlands are 39.5 hectares or 97.5 acres and will continue to be used for agricultural purposes. Laura, the comments of the Huron County Planning. Laura Young is here.
So, as previously mentioned, this rezoning is a condition of the surplus dwelling severance that was approved back in March, file B65 2014. So it is recommended that this application for rezoning be approved, and no correspondence or concerns have been brought to my attention at this time.
Okay. Pardon me. Comments of the applicant or agent? There doesn't look like any. And 6 comments of others, and this is to be read aloud. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of North Huron before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of North Huron to the Ontario Municipal Board and may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Municipal Board unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body. Members of the public are asked to provide comment. Is there any? Okay. Point 7, the Planning Advisory Committee members, questions or comments? Is there any from committee members? Members of the Planning Advisory Committee are asked for questions or comments and are reminded that a motion for the recommendation of the committee will be called for towards the end of the public meeting. Zoning bylaw procedure following the public meeting. This is a public meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee, not a council meeting. Thus, a decision of council may or may not be made this evening. If the bylaw is passed, the clerk is required to send notice of the passing of the bylaw to all persons and agencies notified of this public meeting. There is a 20-day objection period from the time notice of passing of the bylaw has been mailed by first-class post, wherein submissions or letters of objection or support in respect of the passing of the bylaw will be received by the clerk. If an objection is received, an appeal is lodged with the Ontario Municipal Board, and at that point, the township no longer has any control over the time factor involved. If council does not pass the bylaw, the applicant may appeal to the Ontario Municipal Board. If the bylaw is passed and no objections are received within the objection period, the clerk notifies that the bylaw is in force and of effect as of the date of its passing, and the notice is forwarded to the Huron County Planning and Development Department. So basically, the recommendation, as you have already said, is in favor that the rezone be approved. Do we have a motion from council? From the committee? All in favor? Carried. Okay. Thank you, Laura. Basically, we're right up to agenda of the Planning Advisory Committee. Site and Roddy, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Okay. Opening the council meeting of the Township of North Huron. Call to order. Motion to accept the agenda. Campbell and Site. All in favor? Carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest, if any. None noted. Point 4, approval of previous minutes, or any questions on them? Site and all in favor? Okay. We have one deputation tonight. It's Doug Kyvenhoven with Wingham Town Hall Theatre. Have you everything ready for your presentation, Doug?
We do. It's short. So.
Carry on.
Thanks for having us. We're just back to do a little report on progress so far, and I believe there's a staff report coming, so I won't try to overlap with that. So our committee has been basically meeting and working here with our committee, part of our committee, those who can make it up and make it tonight. And we have, well, as the report will show, we've been working on applying for grants. That's our first phase, is to try to get all the possible grant money that we can get free first. And the second phase would then move into approaching businesses and individual, and then the third phase would be individuals, so businesses for sizable donations. So I think you're aware that we are looking at doing first dealing with the fire, so that's the sprinkler system and fire doors, and prices and things are coming forth on that. And the other big one was an enhancement is adding the heating and air conditioning system to the theater. And a fourth item that we're looking at is the projector, to whether or not to put a projector and screen in, so that it could also be used for presentations or showing movies, or that type of thing. We did actually make a visit to the Northern Theater in Minto. Different people told us, hey, they run a theater there and they're actually making money at it. So we did go there and look at that, and then discuss the dining with that further as well. Just for clarification, the Northern Theater is a true movie theater. It has like a $60,000 projector, and it has the full screen and all the sound equipment. So it's different than what we're trying to accomplish here. And we don't believe that we can succeed at doing that in a theater upstairs, et cetera, et cetera. So our focus is still going to be a performance theater for music, and primarily for music, and then drama as well can be performed in there. Other uses, but it's really a performance theater, and that's really its history is with great acoustics and bands and so on and so forth. So that's the focus there. One of the things we worked on, that's just what I'll show you briefly here, is how to recognize the donors. So those donors that make substantial donations, we're looking at, well, there's Ontario Trillium Fund, which we hope to get a very large donation from. And then the next level would be local businesses and banks and insurance companies that would have grant programs for ones that would make donations up at $10,000 bracket. And then the next level would be $5,000 donors, and they would receive significant recognition in the theater, which I'll show you shortly. And then the next level would be individuals, and we look at having kind of a spotlight, a sign that looks like a spotlight shining down on stars with the beam of stars, and then individual stars would have names of donors, and those would probably be $1,000 donors, but we haven't set that phase completely. So that's how we look at recognizing them. And so I'll just show you what we've worked on here. Blank screen. Oh, wrong button. There we go. That helps. Check the signal. Of course, this would have to happen. Oh, Dave, if you want to pull that behind you, that black thing, we'll distract everybody with that first. Oh, there it is. Okay, so that's actually Dave holding it up, and that might hint at you at one possible donor that has made a verbal commitment to being a significant donor to the theater. And I can't unveil it, but we have a second one in the wings that has committed, but I don't want to preempt the press release to occur for that. And so we're looking at 10, 20 plus homecoming $24,000 that we have committed towards this project already. So that's a distant one. So if you're in the theater, there's these blank panels, and we foresee putting these donor recognition plaques on those panels. Could be 2 per panel. That would be 8 across the theater. That would be a lot of money. So maybe we'll just be getting 4 or 5 across that side. The side that you see when you walk in the theater would be the gold level donors, and they would be the $10,000 range. And then this side of the theater, which you'd have to come into the theater and look back at, would be the $5,000 level donors. And then the spotlight with the stars would be at the back of the theater near where you enter, close enough that you could read them. So here is what the old donor plaque would look like. This is just a mock-up. So, and this is the actual size. And it would have the name as well spelled out. So Royal Homes across here, or whatever the name of the company is. But they've got a nice logo. The logo will be displayed, and it would basically be visible. The commitment is a 10-year commitment. So we would say, we guarantee we're putting this up for 10 years. It might be longer, but if there's renovations or things change in a decade, then we could take them down, and it wouldn't, nobody could be offended by the fact that we lived up to our 10-year commitment, and beyond that is just bonus time. So, and then the left side of the theater would be the silver donors, and then this background would be done in silver. Sorry, didn't show you that here. So that's what it would potentially look like. So that's just a cardboard mock-up, but it gives you an idea. These would actually be made up by, we have quotes from our good buddy Nort, Mark Breckenridge, end of the Beeline, Hack and Whack. And he's able to make these in metal. Oh, I don't know if we want that. You got it? No.
Well, if not, it's too late.
So yeah, no, my partners at Royal have committed to a pledge for $10,000 towards the theater. And like I say, we have one more we've received news on. And you'll see in the staff report what we're working on as far as grant applications go in phase 1. And then phase 2 would be to approach businesses. That will be starting in September. So, so that's all that I have to report at this time. I think the rest is going to come with the staff report, and then I can answer any further questions at that time. Sorry. Oh, you want it again? Okay. Any questions or anything, or is that it?
Council,
Sounds good.
thank you. Seems to be going well. Okay. We have already passed the planning amendment.
Everything was okay?
Yes, I think that's what you wanted.
Yeah.
So that, yes, that's taken care of already.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good.
You're welcome to stay, Albert.
That through the Reeves report, there was a good attendance July 11th for the 70th anniversary of the Blythe Lions Club, and the 2 new benches that were dedicated that day are great additions. Also, the Blythe Street Fest is July 25th. So that those that can make it are invited. Also on the 25th and the 26th at the Richard Moran Airport, or slang Wingham Airport, the radio controlled jet rally is July 25th and 26th. There's supposed to be over 60 pilots bringing their planes, some of them bringing 2 or 3. There's supposed to be 2 or 3 pilots out of Florida that are making the trip. Also, Ali Mashinsky is coming from Britain again. And basically, for radio-controlled jets, this is probably the #1 rally in Canada this year. So that it's a pretty good deal, and it's $5 a carload, so if you can, can't say it costs too much if you've got a few friends to take with you. Also, on the August 1st weekend, the National Square Dancing Camping Association will be holding their camp event at the Blythe Campgrounds, and that local people are invited to join in for the evening, and that it's sort of an open invitation for those that might want to take up square dancing or join some of the existing clubs. For the county council report, in September, county council will be doing an examination or brainstorming sessions on both the 16th and 17th of September with the facilitator. And there's, I forget which day, but there's a 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock for the lower tier CAOs, and that hopefully that will be an enlightening session. Question?
Yeah, what are they brainstorming?
It's as to effectiveness of the way our programs work. If there's possibility that bringing a different way that's more effective, more transparent, or cost effective coming forward. Any other questions? Okay, moving to 6.3, the financial report, finance and treasury, bills and accounts. Is there any questions? Bob?
I have a minor question on page 13. The figure is an agency employment service. There are two charges. I'd be interested in knowing where we need temporary help and what that entails. That's $768 twice. Yes, twice.
So Rob, we've had one of our full-time office staff have been off since before Christmas. And so we, that's part of a contract that we're using to
So
fill
it's not a
that.
permanent. Okay, good place.
Okay, thanks, Donna. Okay, Trevor.
I have two, and I think it's self-explanatory, so I know what it says. Equipment on page 9 from PNC Equipment Finance for $8,415.12. Equipment installation. I'm assuming there's a point there where it's department, but I don't know what it is. What did we install?
That's the financing charges. When we acquired in 2009, the fire boards dissolved.
Yep.
The Blythe Fire Board had undertaken a financing option for the I call it air house. But so anyway, we acquired that, and it runs till I believe 2018, and that's the annual payment on that.
Oh, so it's an annual payment, right? Okay.
Yes, correct. I'm sorry, you had one more?
I think it's, I looked at, my question was from the next one down, was for equipment, fire, PP switch, I'm assuming just protective equipment
Those would be primarily helmets, actually.
for $4,000? Helmets?
Yeah, we needed 12 helmets at $300.
Bill.
Hey, Jake, question regarding Melissa Swinger, airport operating union, $1,600.
So if you remember earlier this year, council
permitted us to spend some of our part-time wages on a consultant to assist with writing or reviewing and rewriting our airport operations manual. And it's Melissa Swain that has been, of Swain Aviation, that is actually doing that work for us. So that's her first invoice.
Page 10, RJ Burnside, John Street parking, $683.75. What were we doing there?
I can speak for that.
Kelly?
It was brought to our attention that Mr. Simpson would like to have the parking lot lined, and in our contract with him, we are to have to that cost. So he came forward with a proposal on how he wanted parking done there, and it wouldn't fit in that lot. So I have the assistance of Burnside to give us a proper sketch of what we could put in that parking.
We declared that property surplus. We were going to put it up for sale at 11.
No, it's a different property.
Oh, is this different property?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's,
This is across from the TV.
Right in behind Grumpy's restaurant.
okay, that answers, okay, that answers the question. Couldn't understand why we were spending money on Burnside. Thanks. Thank you.
Motion to pay.
Second. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Okay, from Clerk's Department, 6.41. This is pretty well a self-explanatory motion. Do I have a mover? Yolanda and Bob. All in favor? Carried. Okay. For that much closer to having extra duties. Okay, moving to 6.4.2, recreational facilities, the Women Farmers Market. There's a fairly full report here. Anything extra to add, Pat, or?
No, I just realized that the letter that council did receive last council meeting was included. I did bring copies if anybody wants another copy of that letter that was hand delivered to council during that presentation. Otherwise, staff responded to the request for a staff report, and we're here if there's any questions.
Trevor?
Can you enlighten or kind of just understand what the safety concerns are about the August 5th? Why we're, I guess why your recommendation is not to close that stretch on that day?
So, as mentioned in the report, there are no curves and there are no defined lines to that street. It's a kind of a unique situation. And so it's kind of flagged by a number of parking lots, the Foodland, CIBC, Frosty Clean, as well as the parking lot that they use. So if you watch the traffic through there, people are coming in and out in all sorts of directions. And if we were to partially close it, people would go through and then start to use the Foodland parking lot as a way around. And that is where everybody's parking for whether it's the market or any other activity if the road were closed. So it already has a number of safety reasons why staff are saying don't close this on a permanent basis. The event in question is talking about child-friendly activities to involve children with decorated bicycles, children with their pets competing for prizes. So we felt that the additional stress and the situation of adding children and pets and all of that would create a large risk for the municipality. And so our recommendation is not to close the road for this particular type of event, just because the risk is great. And so that's my background on that recommendation.
Bill?
we have no experience with an event like this there, and I find most of it is just anecdotal. There is no true evidence that it's going to increase the security. I feel that we should allow them to hold their kids there, and give them sufficient barriers to enclose the area they want to close off in the laneway so it's separated from the parking lot, and let them try it. If it does turn out that there is further traffic or greater risk of traffic, that we reconsider on the next application. But I would like to say we take that out and let them try it. I don't want to stand in the way of the farmers market. They've been very successful so far, and I think we should encourage them with all opportunity to proceed with anything that will help them.
Are you putting that forward as a motion to see if we can get a seconder?
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd like to put that forward as a motion. Go ahead.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second for discussion purposes.
Discussion. Trevor?
So then, in Councillor Knott's request, do we have enough barriers to suffice blocking that off? Like, do we have enough to successfully block off what we think would be adequate? Well, I guess that's the question. Like, is it 50 or?
We have some that are doing use throughout the municipality. So I'll give you a straight up answer, yes, we have enough. I can't say, I don't know how many.
So I guess in discussions with Tim Poole, the CBO, sorry, he's not CBO, he's the chief, as well as our Public Works Department and our CBO on this particular issue. It's not difficult to block off the actual area that would be used for the kids' event. It's that as a car travels up Farley Lane and learns and sees that the road is closed, they will try to go around. And by doing that, they would have to access private parking lot. To do that, to be able to either turn around or bypass it. And that is where the participants are parking for the event. So we're not necessarily going to have traffic trying to flow through where the road is closed. It's getting around that barricade with no proper detour for them to take. And if you close the entire road, then you block off access to the CIBC parking and the Foodland parking, making it challenging for those businesses. So it's a difficult scenario, and a lot of thought went into this recommendation, but of course it's council's decision what you would like to do. But having watched the location, that is the recommendation based on, it's not that we can't block the area that they're in, it's the area outside that we would be redirecting, or traffic would naturally redirect themselves to, that would become challenging and risky.
Yolanda?
And they're not saying canceling the Kids' Day, they're saying not to close it. There's a difference. The request is to close the road, not cancel Kids' Day. So the market could still have the Kids' Day, we just wouldn't have the road closed.
No.
Where do you think they're going to have it?
I don't know.
If the road's not closed, they have nowhere to do it. Okay. I guess my point, can we not put signage then up at the top end and at the bottom end indicating that Farley Lane is closed to through traffic so that people will be aware before they turn that it is not a through street at that point in time and solve that problem. So, because otherwise they're not going to have their Kids' Day because they have no place to put it. It's already been clearly stated there's not that much room in the area they have, especially now with the 3 additional booths they're going to have.
Trevor?
So I'm a little bit sketchy on exactly where they're going to close it off. I guess, like, are they closing it off from the stop sign at Frosty Queen up to where the end of the farmer's market is? My concern is that they can't close it. We're not going to close the entire street because let's be clear. We've got one-way streets that are clearly marked for 25 years that people drive down. So putting up signage isn't going to stop people. The concern I have is that if we close the entire street, then you're right, CIBC and Foodland are going to have issues. But if the market is closed like if it's closed from the stop sign at Frosty Queen to the edge of CIBC road, basically, their building, then CIBC can still have their parking lot. Foodland still has access there, right? So what's stopping, like the only concern is that they're coming from the Frost Queen going into the side, the Foodland parking, you go around to get up that way. That's where your concern is?
Yes, so anybody coming from, I know a lot of people will leave the complex and instead of going straight through to Josephine, they will turn right and go through. And so if the road is closed, they may, instead of doing that, go around through the parking lot. We can't close off the parking lot. And so watching people come and go in that area, because the road is not defined, just adds to the risk. And by adding pets and children increases the risk. We have closed it temporarily for the farmers market for the grand opening. And I know that there were some people here that could comment on that, but it's just the added risk. So staff are recommending, with the added risk of children and bicycles and pets, that this is not a park, it's a parking lot and a road, and it's just not making risk management sense to do it for this type of event, but it is ultimately council's decision.
Pardon me, Trevor, what you were talking was if the road adjacent to where the actual market is was blocked off rather than the whole road.
Well, yeah, it's Farley Line. Like it's Farley Lane, that street that the farmer's market's on. And I'm just saying if it was at just where the portion is the farmer's market is already set up, then, but I don't think that's the space that they actually require. I don't know, but I understand both sides of it. I understand the risk part, and I understand that we don't want to detriment, but we don't also want incidents either. And that's where I'm a little bit not sure.
I actually spoke to them a while back when we were talking about closures, and the intent, I believe, is strictly that from the north side of the farmers market down to the stop sign is what they're requesting and what they had intended to request from our school. So they're not asking to close everything like CIBC. I just, as I said, I believe we should support them. I mean, this is something that we try, and I think we should let them try. And we should monitor it closely. And if these issues, which at this point in time are purely subjective, then we don't do it in the future. But I think we at least have to give them the benefit of the doubt and let them try.
Okay, any other discussion? Brock?
I think we ought to take heed from the staff's concern about the risk value here. I think it's fine to try it, but I think it's a big risk for a trial issue that we don't know what the outcome will be. To say, well, we'll fix it next year if we have a tragic accident, I don't think that doesn't fit very well.
James?
I really don't think the Foodland parking lot is a big issue here, because when you watch cars going into the Foodland parking lot, they just don't go down Farley Lane and turn into the parking lot. They start at David Street and the angle towards Foodland. If you sit there and watch them, I've probably done it myself. But I can see closing part of Farley Lane for this event. Maybe not all of it, but I think we should be trying to help this group out as much as we can also. And I do know that there is an issue, a safety issue, but there has been safety issues before that we've dealt with.
Well, it's basically forcing traffic onto other roads. If it was right down to the stop sign at the Frosty Queen end, And from the north end of the farmer's market, if that would be enough space for them. Basically, we can't say how people have to drive in somebody else's parking lot. I think the big thing is there should be enough people and will be enough people around. Hopefully, they drive with care if we were to allow it. Trevor?
What would the impact? So in that particular, it's Foodland parking lot we're talking about. What has Foodland management or like, do they have any concern? Because that's where they're gonna go, right? Like they're not gonna go anywhere else other than in there. So has there been anything voiced from them that, or is there anything been discussed to them, the concern of this road being closed? Like, I guess I don't know. So, like, if they are, if the incident's gonna happen in the Foodland parking lot, is what I'm saying. It's not gonna happen on the municipal road, because the road's closed. So there's an incident that happens, it's gonna happen in Foodland's parking lot, which they're gonna have to be covered for insurance. Like, it's their insurance, right? Not ours, because it's their property. Is that correct? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, yes, it is theirs. There would probably be insurance policies before theirs that would be listed, but as the owner of the property, where if an accident happened, they would probably be named. Sure.
And there's a possibility if they felt that the road closure contributed it, that they would name us.
Pat?
I was just gonna mention that I see Tim Lewis around the corner, who's our CBO, and who has given us a lot of direction on the information that is in this report, and has shared with us some details about allowing traffic onto the private parking lot. I didn't know if you wanted to comment, since he is here this evening, if that's okay with you, Reeve.
Certainly, if you want to.
Sure. I just got the tail end of that. And the concern that we'd like council to realize before we make a decision is that right now you take and close that street, make it a short street. At that point, traffic has no option, right? They're coming in there. It's not like you're closing the whole street. Okay, you're closing part of the street, but it wouldn't matter. If traffic comes in there, they only have one option, okay, and that's to go onto that private parking lot, okay? First of all, I don't believe you have the right to send traffic there, okay? I don't think the municipality has the right to send traffic on anybody's property. I could be wrong, but you know, I'd say I'm probably 95% confident that I'm right, okay? The second thing is, if you do send traffic on there and something does happen, it's all about, you know, and I feel it's very important for the staff is to recognize risk and try and help the municipality do so that we don't, you know, frivolously end up costing the taxpayers money just at the expense of having something. And I realize the market's a nice idea and we've tried to support them, but there comes a time when you get too big and you should maybe think about putting your market or whatever, you know, in a more suitable place. And that's all we're saying is when you get to a certain size, you should consider that, because I don't think the municipality wants to take on that risk, because it's, you know, at the end of the day, it comes down to the simple fact that lawyers go after the people with the deepest pockets, okay? And in this scenario, the people with the deepest pockets is going to be the municipality. It's not going to be the grocery store. And the insurance company for the grocery store has lawyers, and they're going to say, who sent the traffic in there? The spout. Well, guess what? Okay. So I would hazard a guess we'd be the next ones up front. So that's all we want you to be aware of before you make the decision.
Trevor,
So let me, how are we forcing them into the parking lot? If we close, so just hear me out, if we're closing the road at the Frosty Clean stop sign, and we're closing it at the end of the CIBC building. So if I'm somebody that's going to the complex, let's just say I'm a ratepayer that's going to the complex from downtown. I can go to the Frosty Clean turn and turn left to go to that, or I can go to CIBC and turn left. The road is then closed, right? So they have two options. One, they can go into the parking lot if they so choose, or they can turn around and go back the way they came.
How are they gonna turn around?
They're gonna turn the same as if they're going into the parking lot to go to the bank. They're gonna go into the parking lot, turn around, come out, the same as if anybody.
Well, I think if you come over and take a look at it, you'd see that the area is very congested, okay? And you start trying to turn around in there once you're committed to coming down that street. And you're back to the same argument, okay? You're putting the driver of the vehicle in a position he shouldn't normally be in when he's driving down that street, okay? If he has to reverse and he bumps into somebody, it won't matter, okay? They're gonna look for a reason. Why was that street closed? Well, the street was closed because we allowed a farmer's market there. And why did you turn around? I turned around because I couldn't get through the street because the farmer's market was there. Comes back to the same thing, okay? And I've been on that side of the litigation table, okay? I know the arguments to make. I know how to get the points in court. And, you know, that's what I would be looking for. And I think you can make pretty strong arguments. That's all I'm saying. You can, agree or disagree, but at the end of the day, we just want you to be informed. That's one of the options that you may be facing, right?
thank you. Bill,
I think that we make it a condition of the closure agreement that they, as a farmer's market, obtain and provide adequate signage to be placed at the corner indicating that there is no through traffic on Farley. And therefore, we're not directing them down that street at all. If they choose to go down there, that's not our problem. We haven't directed them down there. In fact, the farmer's market will put signs telling them not to go.
So are you suggesting we close Farley and right at Victoria Street?
No, I'm saying that we have them place signage at the corner of Farley and Victoria, indicating that there is no through traffic on Farley Lane due to closure. So it will still be open because you can't block the CIBC parking or the entrance where the food is. So you just close it from the north end of the farmer's market, so the south end of the CIBC down to the stop sign across the food, and have the farmer's market provide signage that we find acceptable, whether Tim reviews it or whoever reviews it, states what it says on the sign and it's acceptable to everyone, but that they provide, farmers market not provide that signage. And that's a condition of the closure.
Trevor,
But is that, so to ask Tim, and that signage is not gonna mitigate our risk.
No.
Correct?
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. And, let me be clear about this, okay? We'd like to see that farmer's market outgrow its space, right? Because there is other options, okay? And, as a matter of fact, staff here, tried to direct them to other places to start off with because we kind of thought it was a good idea. We were hoping it would grow. So it's not a case where we're trying to, punch holes in a good idea. We're just trying to make sure we don't put ourselves in a bad position because of it. That's all.
any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion fails.
Then are they going to have to make a motion for them to deny?
Okay,
That's the original.
Okay. The motion that is printed is somebody willing to make that motion? James? And Yolanda? All in favor? Carried. Okay. The town hall theater fundraising plan and schedule. Suggested motion says that we approve the fundraising plan and schedule. And display donor recognition and approve grant applications proposed for the William Town Hall Theater Committee. And further, that these approvals are subject to the final cost estimates coming in at the estimated $120,000, which will be confirmed by the project engineer. Do we have a mover? Bill? Yolanda? Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. Uh, 6.4.3, Finance Department. And we hereby receive July 20th from the Director of Finance for information. Yolanda, Trevor? Trevor?
There's no question. This is not to be asked to be a bad question, but why does it take 8 months to finalize our year-end financial statements?
Just this year with all the extra projects that we've been working on, yeah, and then we have to get the schedule between council meetings and have the auditors to try to find an appropriate date for them to present the statements after they're done, so.
So is the timeline, the issue of finishing, is it more of an auditor issue, or is it our issue? Like that we didn't present them proper?
No, we had our audit in February, which is normal. It's just since we've been so short-staffed this year, I haven't had all the work prepared that I would have normally had done now.
Sure.
Motion approved. Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion? Carried. And 6.4.4, the Public Works Department. And, is there questions on the second part of that the council approves the draft pickup truck policy as presented? Bill?
I'll make the motion.
So make the motion. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Just one question. What is your estimated mileage on those pickups at the end of 5 years once you get into it?
We're hoping to be able to move them around within the 3 departments in order to keep that mileage down. So I know the county trade fares in at about 120,000 kilometers. So I believe that's not bad.
Actually, it's 230. 6 years at 230,000 is
Our
carrying.
vehicles are averaging over 260 now, so they're 9 years old. So we'll be able to give you a better estimate. Like we have one truck in the fleet now that's only a couple years old, and it's got 80,000 kilometers on it. That's used in small. No, it's the truck that we would like to move around, so it doesn't get as many kilometers put on it. And it's life with us, so we get a better return on our trade.
Bill,
Have you calculated, just taking all of the trucks and the mileage accumulated over the year and dividing it up? What is the average kilometers per vehicle per year? So we're going to be probably close to 40,000 by the sound of it. So 5 years, you're going to be at 200,000 mark. 200,000 kilometers.
There are some trucks that don't use that many kilometers, so
Yeah.
we can move them around.
Oh yeah, I understand your rotation. So it's just a question of what is the actual average per vehicle currently? You know, that would be worth examining.
okay. Trevor,
Those 30 to 40. Because on the page where it says North Huron Truck Fleet June 2015, will give you the condition of the vehicle and the number of kilometers that's on it the year it was bought. So if you do all that, you look at both limits between 30 and 35,000 kilometers per year.
Some of those vehicles were used more than that.
Whatever. Like that's the question was asked, what's the annual kilometers? Whether the truck was used or not, that's the annual kilometer based on the calculation.
that might be skewed a little by one green truck with big mileage that had 230 when we bought it.
Right, but that's what the conversation, this question is, we're looking at about 30,000 kilometers on a truck or a year, average.
Okay. Okay, Bill moved. Do I have a seconder? Or have Trevor seconded. Any further questions? Those in favor? Carried. Okay. 6.4.5, utility department, the Patrick Street reconstruction bids, and that basically the motion is that we reject all bids and that have chief operator prepare a revised plan and scope on the work. Do I have a mover? Brock and James. All in favor? Carried. Utility department update. That received the report for information purposes. Do you have a question
I
or?
have a question. The point number 1 on the Blythe water, I don't understand that second paragraph about the possibly having to with something in the arena and something out of the arena.
What I had asked them to look at was to use some existing facilities instead of building new ones, since we own them and we operate them now. So it was just a cost saving measure. But as it turned out, they did look at it, and it may work, but it'd be really cramped. So they recommended
Buildings a separate facility.
yes.
I wasn't sure what.
Yeah, that was all.
Okay. Do I have a mover? Brock? James? All in favor? Carried. And 6.4.6, Fire Department of North Huron, to accept the report for the month of June. James? And Yolanda?
I have some
Questions?
No, just a comment.
Sure.
I received word on the oil spill that we had up here that our fire department went way beyond, and the MOE was really impressed with the record keeping and everything that was done, so that's a credit to our firemen. And I'd like to toss them a little thanks for all the work that they did up there.
Well, I can't take credit for my crews, but I'll be sure to pass that on. They did a good job. Thank you.
I thought just the fact that MOE was impressed.
Well, thank you to all the ones that responded there, and especially your scribe, because I think that's one thing that there's a few guys from the fire department realize how important it is to have a scribe to document the stuff. And I see that there's some have taken scribe training, and I think that is one of the best things that we can do to mitigate risk of liability, where our emergency staff are stepping forward, is to have the scribe next to the incident commander and just recording everything and the time.
And that was noted in our June report. We implemented our scribe program on the 30th of June, and so far we've used the scribe twice. I actually brought a sample of what it looks like, but basically the scribe attaches himself to the incident commander, be it me or whomever, and everything that's said or everything that's done is written down who was told what and what time. And at the conclusion of the incident, we have a complete time log of everything that went on from the incident commander's perspective. That's a takeaway from the LA Lake Mall class, where the fire chief got put on the witness stand, and in all of the goings on, wasn't able to keep detailed records of everything that happened. And the OPP incident commander got put on the stand, and he had a detailed record of everything they described the entire time. So there was never any question as to what the OPP said, but for the fire chief, there were numerous questions that weren't clear and unanswerable. So we're using that, and it's a sign of the times, but it is very effective. And like I say, we've applied it twice.
Trevor.
Reed, just as a follow-up to Dave, just so I guess for public and press, can you explain to us, or at least what the process of the communication, because again, the incident happened on Friday, and a press release wasn't issued until Tuesday. But can you just explain the process, just so people are aware of what that is?
Well, and as the folks in the press will vouch for, we're in a world of fast information. When we respond to an incident, if we're called out for an incident, on our Twitter feed, we'll say what the call nature is. If it's a medical call, we don't publish it, because that's neither no one's sort of business. In the case of incidents, Twitter publishes that we're responding to a possible fuel leak. I actually had two citizens come up to me and say thank you, because we saw the fire trucks at the dam and thought they must have been drowned. But when it's on Twitter, we know it's a fuel spill. What I have with the CConnect's radio, with CTV TV, as well as Denny and Pauline, is if you have any questions, send me a text. You may not hear from me for several hours, but when you want the real accurate information, I'll get back to you at a time that works. What we're finding challenging is that if it's a motor vehicle collision we're responding to, the OPP or the Lincoln Police will release the press release with the information and the details. If it's a fire, we'll release the information, and I'll talk about that again in a second. In the case of a spill, it's up to the Ministry of the Environment. We have very limited expertise in sort of determining how much fuel was spilled, where all it would have, be careful, where all it may have gone, but that's where their expertise comes in. So in this incident, we were there at 6 o'clock, and just around 11 o'clock it was transferred to the Ministry of the Environment as their incident. On Friday, that was on a Tuesday evening, on Friday afternoon, there still have been no public information from the Ministry of the Environment. To the point where I actually called our CIO and suggested that if there's nothing before the end of the day, we may want to ask our reeve to write a letter to the Ministry of the Environment to please inform our ratepayers what is going on. I had some people stopping at the William Fire Station concerned, what's going on with the cleanup, and it's like, I can't answer that. The Ministry of Environment did release information, and Pauline, I think it was late Friday afternoon when it finally came out. I'd love to be able to tell people more, because in the absence of information, lots of stuff goes to the void. But at the end of the day, any fuel spill or any other spill of that nature could be fertilizer in the river. That's up to the Ministry of Environment to release information on that beyond what you get off our initial Twitter call. And I would agree that I think it should have been sooner, for the sake of a lot of people, because it created unnecessary concerns. But there's a limit to what we can discuss. Second thing that is interesting is we had a fire on Friday, and we talked about how you manage information in this era. There were three different numbers for the number of animals lost in the structure. One was 30, one was 100, and one was 500. All three answers are actually correct, depending on how you ask the question. 30 animals died the day of. It was estimated that in a room full of black smoke, that probably 100 would be dead by today. And realistically, because these are animals for human consumption, if they've inhaled a lot of black smoke, it's not unreasonable to assume that they may not be approved for human consumption. So you've got 500. Makes it very difficult for us, and one of the things we're working on as part of the scribe process in order to try and control some of this information is at the conclusion of an incident, our scribe will be, we've got a few scribes, there'll be listed parameters within which they can release more on the incident. So it keeps it clear, because like I say, I heard three different numbers of animals dead, and all three were right, depending on how you phrase the question. Because if we're very cautious that we don't release information that's private, but we're also concerned that the initial call out or depending on how questions asked may not give the public the right answer either. But we're not ready to do that yet, because there's some education and parameters have to be in place for what we could release at the end of an incident. When it is a working fire or it's a fire-related issue. But at the end of the day, we're in a social media world, and stuff moves quickly. Whether it's accurate or not, it flies around quickly. And within the parameters of people's privacy, we want to manage the fire side of that equation as best we can. And I would assume that somehow the Ministry of Environment has to be able to be managing things a little bit faster than what they did. Just because if this was in an urban Toronto setting, I don't think people would be very happy waiting from Tuesday night until Wednesday, Thursday, Friday afternoon to hear what was going on. But I'm not in a position to affect that.
Thank you.
So the correct number that we're using for the livestock loss is 100. And that's because that's what I can verify. I can't verify what the Food Inspection Agency will do, but we're confident 100. Choose your number, and all three are right, which is really difficult.
Okay, all those in favor of the fire department report, carry. Okay, moving to 8.1. It's a consent application for Shoulder Farms.
Just a point of clarification, we have two addresses here at the same time. The motion is a separate address than what the first one is.
The motion is for a different.
But it's approving the consent of the first one, is it not? Do we not have to approve this consent that it's just come in?
So it is the part lot 39 in section 4 that is the one that's currently up for consent.
But the one below it is not the same address as the one above.
It's a different.
It's a
Right.
different. That's a different one altogether.
That's a different
Okay.
one. And that's a different address. Yes, that's in.
Okay.
just a minute.
So that's fine.
Okay. For the lot 39 concession 4, those in,
I'll make a
we-
motion.
motion. And Trevor seconds. All in favor of that one? Carried. Okay. And for lot 42, concession 10, that is in bylaw, isn't it? Yeah. For council information, the council can bring forward information for discussion. Okay. For the 9.1, for those that would appreciate hearing, I have a submission that Ontario Federation of Agriculture made with the Standing Committee on Finance and Economic Affairs, May 19th. There's some very interesting points brought forward for information if somebody wants to read this afterwards.
What is it concerning?
Oh, it's for the sale of Ontario, of Hydro One.
Right, okay.
That it goes through that basically, while the province owns it, it was the rural and small towns that actually paid to build hydro up to where it is. And a number of similar comments. So that there is an ask for certain things to be done if the province follows through. And is anybody following up on 9.2? The Independent Telephone Providers Association that are looking at Southwestern Ontario broadband. That Roger Watt is representing County Council on a committee that is looking into that. And he said what the independent and what the SWIFT project, there's good points in both, and they have to get it together to get the right thing happening. So there'll be information coming in future on that. Brock?
I had a question. I don't know if anybody can answer this. Who are the organizations that are part of that company that they're talking about making a proposal?
The Independent Telephone. Okay, yeah. Well, there's Huron, Tucker Smith.
It's our same,
Hey,
local cooperative.
It's our local cooperatives, but there's actually 14 of them that have banded together, and they go by Independent Telephone Providers Association.
That's all.
Okay. Trevor.
Make a motion to,
Order reading file. Okay. Bill seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving to correspondence. It's nice to a letter of thank you for the support for the Alice Munro Festival of Short Story. If there's nothing being brought out, motion for order, read and filed. Yolanda and Brock. All in favor? Carried. Committee reports. Is there anything extra on blind VIA or any questions on the written report?
I'd like to point out that the minutes that are in here are incorrect. On page 3, it makes reference to the gardening group. That was amended. I have a copy of the amended page here because it states in here the group would be committee and council, and that's not correct. That was misinterpreted by the secretary. So it was correct, but I have a copy of page 3 here. For some reason, we did not receive the corrected one. There's at least page 3, so I can give that to you. Okay. If you want, I'll read what it does say. It says, needs to advise that the garden group inform and live is an independent group, an appointed liaison to provide input, should say inputs is input, ideas and suggestions to the Parks and Recreation of North Huron. So I'll give that to you.
Okay.
Other than that, I have nothing to say. If anyone has any questions. July 25th, street fight, noon before. Come on down, kiss the pig contest. I have a lobbying hard for something, pig, something, but
They took away
they took that away, I know.
I feel bad.
My wife.
I'd like council to know that I have volunteered my time to walk the streets of Blythe that day to solicit donations on behalf of Councillor Knott and the subhanded the pig. I'm sorry, but
Good way to take face.
right. So please
It
come
doesn't
and
matter.
donate
The
to
south
the
end
cause.
is the south end.
Yeah. Moving to 11.2, William BIA. Anything to add or any questions? Fairly self-explanatory. Okay. Any questions of the Health and Safety Committee minutes of March 26th? Okay, on the bylaws. 12.1, bylaw number 57, 2015, being a bylaw to appoint Sharon Chambers as the municipal chief administrative officer / deputy clerk for the township of North Smith. Bill and Jim. All in favor? Okay, third and final time engrossed in the bylaw book, signed by the reading clerk. So Trevor and Brock. All in favor? Okay. There you go, extra work. Okay. Okay, first and second reading on bylaw number 58. 2015, being a bylaw to amend the zoning, South Part, Lot 40, concession, 14, Township of North Huron, East Wabash Ward. First and second reading, Brock and James. All in favor? Carried. We have a third and final time signed by the reading clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book, Bill and Yolanda. All in favor? Carried. Council reports and inquiries. Brock?
Yes, I have one item. I received a copy of a draft motion presented recently to County Council by the G2G Rail Trail executives. I understand that the County Council has tabled the motion for discussion at a later meeting. If County Council passes that motion, it will be endorsing in principle the development and completion of the G2G Rail Trail by October 30th, 2015. The preamble of the motion, in my view, addresses each and every one of the concerns raised by the public, and in particular, the owners of properties that are bordered or transected by the trail. It addresses all of the major issues raised by the Ontario Federation of Agriculture in the paper entitled Rails to Trails Concerns of Adjacent Property. Other documentation that I've received from G2G indicates that none of the fears raised by the opponents of the trail have been realized in the sections of the trail that have been used for a number of years and are already developed. It shows that, for example, there is no evidence that insurance rates have been increased when an undeveloped trail becomes a developed trail. It shows that as each portion of the trail is developed, all of the issues in that portion, such as proximity to dwellings or agricultural assets, are addressed, along with other factors that are peculiar to that particular sector and each property owner's situation. Each of these will be developed with appropriate solutions. That's how it works. Economic development is at the top of North Huron's list of strategic priorities. The G2G Trail is one of the greatest ED assets within our reach. It's unfortunate that we're being portrayed as opponents to this development. I believe that most people in this municipality are in favor of the development, at least that's my opinion. Calls to halt the development make no sense whatsoever. It's time for us to, as a municipality, to support Huron County Council and the G2G Rail Trail Organization and get this trail ready for use well before the international plowing match in 2017.
Okay. I feel that I should leave the chair at this time. I will give some other information on G2G. Thank you. For those, this is my file on G2G. In being at the July 18th meeting of G2G, we started discussing a number of the points. G2G failed to have any representation at that meeting. This is the working group that is supposed to be going through in the aspect of fairness, in the document that was provided to County Council. Point 5 refers to a specific document that, according to county staff, will be developed in August of 2015. G2G claimed that they were following a number of the guidelines set out in that economic development document. The first county councillors would see that economic development, according to the timelines, is September 2015. I question why certain documents have been made available to a nonprofit individual corporation when they haven't been made available to Huron County councilors. That is one reason that Huron County councilors tabled this request, is that G2G seemed to have information that has not come to county council as yet. And I believe during the meeting of the working group, Napier Simpson from RTO4 was there. He mentioned on how OFA was good to go on everything with G2G. They had, in the actual letter that he was taking the information from, was that they had no opinion, and that that is what he showed us, that they did not have, that they were in favor of it. It was that they were not opposed at the time of the information given. G2G and Paul Vandermolen keep saying there is only 3 issues that OFA would have with this trail. Actually, there is 13 points in this OFA communication for rails to trails concerns of property, adjacent property owners. There's 13 printed in OFA's communication. Unfortunately, there's been an adversarial position taken by the press, 2 press releases done by G2G. They knew that they were not opening the whole trail because there was leases that they had no control of. We're just asking for answers. The working group is probably going to have extra meetings to work through some of these. Biosecurity was something that the planning staff had little knowledge of. RTO4 had practically no knowledge of principles of biosecurity that livestock and poultry farmers have to go through. So that at the next meeting, they're inviting the field man for Chicken Farmers of Ontario to go through what the protocols, what happened with the avian flu stuff at Woodstock. And I believe there will be an expert from the University of Guelph invited to give factual background information. There is landowners that have written quotes on their increase in liability. But yes, there is some of this is factual. I'm not sure how much. And if GART is to be looked at as a model for how the whole Huron County section will be looked at. There is gates on the Gart Trail where it crosses Huron County 1 on the east side that has never been opened. The grass has never been clipped this year, to my knowledge, as of last week. The way people follow Gart Trail is that they bypass around the gate following the four-wheeler trail, and that is the only way of staying on the Gart Trail because the gate has never been opened this year to my knowledge. There was a couple other points, but I believe in being fair, factual, and letting everybody have their true say. Is this working group that has been set up by Huron and Perth counties, the planning department, to have the lead, is the only way to try and get to an answer of what's what. In the end, I expect neither side will like me, because with the lease that G2G have signed on the previously unleased portions, they will have a certain amount of power in pushing it through. The only way for any of the previous leases to be kept would be that the county has to take over the lease. If G2G was to gain control of the properties previously leased, none of the previous leases could be honored. When they run out, it would all go to G2G, so that in the end, I believe there has to be a compromise, but the adjacent landowners' concerns have to be looked at. One thing that nobody seems to realize is that on the east end and the west end of what is to be G2G, since any of the other trail was developed, the property has increased 4 to 5 times in value. Where an acre was worth $3,000, a person could give up an acre. Where it is 10 to 12 to 14,000, there's a lot more resistance. And protocols on biosecurity identified crops that need buffers from public, where you may lose 20 or 30 feet from a crop. Different seed crops you will see, they will mow or cultivate sort of a headland. You wonder why they didn't have crop in that. That is the seed protocols that you have to follow, so that where a trail goes through the center of a farm, you lose it both sides of the trail, not just on one side, the way when most trails have been to one side or the other side of the farm. The farmer on a big part of the stretch through Huron, they lose twice as much ability to control land as they would otherwise. I'm strongly in favor of this working group working through it. And the more G2G can attend these meetings, the easier it'll be to work through and get a mediated compromise, because I think that is the only way this can be workable. And neither side is going to be completely happy. But I think we have to work through it, and we already do have a working group that has been set up and given the job of working through it, so that it is something that I don't believe can be hurried. But thank you for your indulgence on this.
So I have just more of a comment. I've heard a lot of information with G2G in the last 2 months. Nothing has changed in 2 months. I haven't been told anything new from 2 months ago that I just heard today. These are issues that Huron County and G2G need to work through, and I think this working group might help. But as a councillor in North Huron, in Wheel Ward, until somebody tells me what I'm supposed to support or deny, I can't go either way, because I haven't been given any information that tells me I can support or deny it. All I'm being told is G side of the story, the landowners have some issues that they haven't been addressed. Nothing's come back to me that says their issues have been addressed. Nothing's come back from Huron County that says the Lisa's stuff has been addressed. Nothing seems to have been addressed from a standpoint of a report that says, here's what the issues were started, here's where we are today. Unless I'm lost, I haven't been told anything new in all the times we've been talking about G2G. So until something new comes up, I really don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm really tired of talking about the same stuff. Like, if a Huron County person or a G2G have to come here to tell me what's new, great. But until then, we're talking about the same stuff over and over and over again. And it's frustrating.
I don't need to be the spokesperson for G2G. I know some of those people, and I do know that they have attended all of the previous meetings of the working group. They decided, is that not true?
Not all.
They decided that it would be better if they didn't attend the latest meeting because of some issues. They thought it would be polarizing the group or something like that. Anyway, that's really beside the point. The process that is already going on in some of the areas that are being developed is that as the trail gets developed, the undeveloped trail starts to get developed, they talk to each of the landowners on either side of the trail, and they decide what mitigation is necessary for that particular setting. So there's full discussion with the business of fencing. The fencing regulation is that it's up to the farmer or the landowner to put in a request for fencing, and it's the responsibility of whoever is in charge of that trail to provide the fencing that is required. But there have been no requests, to my knowledge, from anybody on the trail to request that fencing. So I mean, there are a lot of things that are available there. And the other issue that a piece of information that I got from a reliable source is that the holders of the leases really don't have to ask anybody permission. They are automatically empowered to do it. It's a courtesy to talk to the landowner and find out what the mitigations are. If there are agricultural buildings that are close by, they need a special fencing or they need a special barrier of some kind, then that's what has to be provided. It's a fence, the fence would be provided. All of that is, it's in the plan. It's such a long trail with every few feet changes, who owns it and what the circumstances are, what the physical situation is. So it's difficult to come up with a single answer to what's being done, but it seems to me that all of these 13 points from the OFA part are going to be addressed as the trail gets developed. And I think that the end result is too important to throw away.
First, I'd like to state, I don't remember anybody in this council, anytime any of us indicating that we were not in favor of the trail. And I support the concept of the trail. As everybody knows, anything that will be an economic development opportunity is welcome. However, you're also aware that I sent a long list of questions to G2G, both of their supposed information emails, and I copied everyone on that. I have yet to receive an acknowledgement, let alone any information with regard to any of the questions I asked. I sat with Mr. Lee at a meeting, an economic development meeting, where we sat there and he and I got into a discussion with regard to G2G, and I expressed my unhappiness with the lack of information. And at the same time, he said that they had never been invited to a meeting, and I said, well, I would be more than happy to invite them to attend here to explain to this council what they intended to do. And was told that he would look into it, and I said, just send the request to the CAO, and she will bring it to council, and we will be more than happy to host you. To the best of my knowledge, you've never received any information from it. My problem is that they keep saying they have these grand plans, but we've never actually seen a plan of what they propose to do to the trail. I've never seen any financial information with regard to how this will be funded now or who will pay for it in the future, because their stated program is that they are going to, once it's done, turn it over to the county. Well, we all know that the county will not take care of it. The county will then turn around and hand it right back down to the lower tier municipalities, and suddenly it will become our burden to bear. Well, I don't really like anybody dictating what I'm going to bear in the future, and so that's why I want to see what it is that they intend to do. Now, the other thing in their last press release, again, they stated that if anybody had any questions, that they should go to their local counselor. And yet, as Councillor Seath stated, he knows nothing. So exactly what is he going to tell these concerned individuals? We don't know anything, and yet they're telling people to come and ask us. This is wrong. I mean, and I cannot support G2G at this point in time simply because they have not been forthcoming with any information, and they've been requested to. I mean, I sent an open letter to them and got what? Nothing. And I think that the OFA has done everything it can to lay out its problems or questions with regard to the biosecurity issues and so on. And I don't think they've been addressed fairly. To just say, as we go, and what Mr. Bob is indicating here is that they're saying, well, you know, when the time comes, we're going to address it with the individual property owners. When the time comes, not in the future. We're not going to plan anything. We're just going to decide that tomorrow we're going to do this piece of the trail, and we're going to go and ask whoever it is, the owner of that adjacent property, what he wants. But then they're also stating that it's actually the responsibility of the adjacent landowner to request this. So that, are they really going to come and ask him, or are they just going to sit back and wait for that firm, wherever it is, to come forward and look for his necessary setbacks, fencing, whatever? And then again, fencing is expensive. Who's going to pay for it? Where is the money going to come from? So I have a lot of concerns, but at the same time, nobody here ever stated that we did not support the trail or the concept of the trail, but we wanted to know exactly what was involved here, and they have failed to do that.
Okay, one last question, that's it.
Okay, I think that one of the issues that you raised is a matter of jurisdiction. I think there's some hesitation on the G2G trail to come in and dictate what's going to happen in Huron County, because they're turning that over to the county. And I think that we should be getting more information from the county as things develop. There's nothing developing yet, and we should know that. So I think they don't want to tread on the toes of the county, which the working group is supposed to be taking charge of.
Okay, I think we spent enough time debating on this. Do you have any questions? Let's move on.
Apologies for that delay. Other points on councilor reports or inquiries? Okay. Moving to the CAO's report.
My first report is just an administration update, but there is one action that is required coming from that. And that is a request to donate the remaining Wilderness to Wawanosh history books to the East Wawanosh 150 Committee for fundraising purposes.
I'll do that.
Okay. Rock seconds. Perceived, where there's absolutely no way I'm making money out of that. I will not be voting on this because there might be perceived conflict. There's definitely no money being made by myself, and fiduciary is where I get in trouble, but I will not be voting on it for that reason. Is there discussion on that? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thank
Is
you.
there also a motion to accept the report?
And we need a motion to accept the CAO's report. Yolanda and Trevor? All in favor? Carried.
Just as one last item further to the administration activities, I'd like to remind council about the joint meeting with Morris Turnberry coming up on July 28th at 7:30 at the Emergency Services Training Center in Blythe. And that you will be getting your information package distributed to you by email this Friday. So Administrator Mickey and I are working on that package together, so we can expect that, so you can be prepared.
Okay, moving to point 15, the public gallery questions. 14.2.
So my next report is to provide council with an update on the House and Dam project. You'll see we have some members of the Dam Committee here in the gallery this evening, as well as Bill Beard from the Conservation Authority. The purpose of this report is really just to bring council up to date. I look back in the minutes to see what the direction was from council. And the last I could find was on September 15th, where we received the delegation from the committee. And at that time, council had authorized a release of $15,000 from the reserve to investigate options for the repair of the dam. As you can see, we do have a preliminary report and drawings that are available, and the project costs are exceeding what was originally reported to you at that meeting. So in the minutes, it stated that the repairs, they were confident the repairs could be completed within the existing reserve fund, which at the time was $214,000. And then looking at releasing the $15,000 towards engineering. Pat, if you could provide an update on what has been spent to date on that $15,000.
So, on top of the 15,000, we received a grant from, Huron County Heritage Fund for $3,115.50. And, so to date spent, is $7,351.50 plus HST for a total of, $8,307.21.
Okay, thank you. So further to that, I guess what I wanted to bring to council's attention is, in light of the fact that this estimate that is provided by BM Ross, and I've copied that for you to see this evening, it does not include dealing with the bridge structure above, or the cost of approvals, or the cost of a stability analysis and a dam break analysis, which Andy Ross has told me will be approximately $80,000 for those. So you can see it significantly adds to project costs. That report says that the repair would extend the service life for 30 to 50 years. However, you will see some deterioration over the next few years, and you could accumulate those repairs and do a repair project every 15 years or so to patch the concrete that continues to deteriorate. So you can see that you're getting into some long-term costs. In the proposal before you by BM Ross, to address this budget, the committee had requested that the project be broken down into phases, and we'll see the first phase of that is about 185,000 plus HST, and that is to repair the sills. If you commit to that first part of the project, then you're essentially saying we're proceeding with a repair project, and so you will have to complete the entire repair project. In speaking with the engineer, he sort of used the analogy, it's like putting shingles on your house and not necessarily knowing whether the walls are going to hold the roof up. Yes, you need the new shingles, but you also need to address the other issues. So the next phases of the repairs would be the patch repair on the piers and aprons on the 4 bays of the spillway. When you're looking at these types of projects as well, I think it's important to look a number of years out and plan how you're going to, how it's going to fit into your long-term capital plans. So yes, you can address the first component with your existing reserve, but where is the remaining repairs going to fit within our long-term capital budget? You're still going to have to put money into reserve to address that structure when it reaches the end of its useful life. So these types of projects can become very expensive over time, and I'm asking council to allow us to consider how that will fit into the long-term capital plans. And in looking at that, you may want to look at the other options available to you, because at some point in time, you're going to have to address that structure. Whether it be removal, you can see abandonment in the report. They've got a cost of approximately $300,000, and that is because you can't just simply abandon the structure. You still have to do studies to prove to the M&R that it can be safely abandoned and isn't going to cause any issues. As I mentioned in the report, the House and Dam Committee may want to speak to you to bring you up to date on their investigations. And I spoke to Andy McBride, who said that he would like to address council at some time in the near future. I also spoke to the Conservation Authority today, and they would like to make a joint presentation to council with the M&R to discuss their take on this project as well. If you wanted to get updated costs on any of the other options, BM Ross has provided some ballpark prices for you to do that. You may want to wait until you hear from the other agencies before you go ahead and do that. But I thought it was time that council at least heard the preliminary figures on the project so that you can make some decisions and decide whether you want to continue proceeding with engineering that perhaps decide in the end that you can't afford a certain path. So I'd like you to sort of take stock of where we're at with the project in light of these figures. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
James,
It's more of a comment. I'd like to see us meet with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Maitland Valley before we make too many more decisions on what we're going to do, just so we have an idea. I know that we have to do a stability analysis has to be done before we can do anything. But I think we should meet with those two groups first before we go ahead and say yes or no.
are you making that as a request that staff facilitate the
I would make that as a
meeting with
request.
Maitland Valley and Natural Resources?
Yes, I'll make that a request.
You could add that to the existing recommendation if you like. We've got on there to invite the Housing Dam Committee. And we could also add that to invite the Conservation Authority and the M&I.
Bill,
Can we can make that a separate meeting from a council meeting? Because I think there's going to be a lot of information that will occupy too much time to hold as a regular council meeting.
If you would like to do that, you know, it would still be open to the public because
Oh, yeah.
the quorum of council would be there. We would advertise it as a special meeting. So we can work with them to come up with a date, and I'm sure the dam committee would be interested in attending as well.
Bill seconds. Further discussion? Okay.
As a new counselor, I guess I don't understand where the priority, where did this project land in the list of priorities from other councils? If anybody doesn't know that. Where does it list? Does it list top 5 or 50 or?
Within 50,
Within 50.
yeah, maybe 20.
And I guess that my comment to that is I've taken pretty hard stock in what some of the public have said during our budget meetings, in the fact that this isn't old money that we're going to be using. Like, there is no more new money. So if any project of this size that we take on, it's going to be coming from somewhere else, or the taxpayers are going to be paying for it. And that's everybody, whether it be in Blythe or East Wawanosh or Wayne. Like, everybody's going to pay for this if it's going to be new money. Like, because we're not going to find any funds to do this. The province isn't going to give us anything to do this. So I guess for me is it's just, I would like to know where should this rank in our priorities and what we should be doing. Like, if this has a major thing to the municipality and it should be number 1, then great. But nobody's told me whether that is the case. I just don't know. So, and the reason why I ask that is because it is big money. Like, this is not $25,000. This is millions. So I guess that's where my comment is. I just want, I think we as council need to decide what the priority is for this infrastructure and what I guess the needs, or what are the needs of this infrastructure at all. I don't know that, or what.
Sure.
I appreciate your question, Councillor Sipin, and that's something that we've been discussing lately as a management team. And I think one of the things that we do realize is that times are changing when it comes to our infrastructure spending. Municipalities used to budget on a 1-year outlook, you know, and the province has been sending us a very strong message over the last number of years that you need to find a way to be sustainable. You need to look after your own house because we're not going to be here for you anymore. The asset management and PSAP project was the beginning of that, where they started depreciating municipal assets, and we had to actually quantify all of the infrastructure that we had and come up with asset management planning in order to be able to sustain it. Right now, we only have our core infrastructure in our asset management plan, which is our roads, water, wastewater, bridges. But we need to look even further out because we own a lot of facilities. And so we need to draw those into our asset management plan to look ahead at what our annual reserve transfer requirements need to be to meet that sustainability target. No municipality in Ontario is going to get there, by the way. But we need to start moving toward that and coming up with long-term capital plans that look at our priorities. And it's very unfortunate, but in this day and age, councils are looking at projects in terms of what are the nice to haves and what are the needs to haves. What projects address public safety? And then you have the challenge of looking at projects that may have more of a political aspect where they're important to members of the community. And dam projects are those. They're the types of projects that they have historical value in the community. They mean something. They provide an aesthetic of a nice water body. And so you're going to have buy-in from some of your residents to say that. So you have a very difficult decision on weighing the political aspect of what your community wants and also the hard reality of what you have money to do. And that's what we're here to do as staff, is to help you find your way through those weeds. And in order to do that, we need to have a proper plan in place. I want North Huron to be here and strong in years to come and not having to defer important capital projects. And so we need to have a plan in place for our spending and to be able to control taxes so that we're sustainable.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay, public gallery questions now? Good.
Connie would like to
Connie.
share.
I'm not sure if any of you have seen the Alice Munro stamps that came out on July 10th this year, which is Alice Munro's birthday. I won't share with you which one because that is not proper apparently. But anyway, I just wanted you to know that at the North Huron Museum, we did work actually quite closely with the design team on this and Canada Post, and we were kind of sworn to confidentiality that this project was coming, so we're actually kind of excited that it's here. They did, in thanks, send us some stamps and some envelopes with the Alice Munro design on it. So those will be in the library or in the museum. So that's it.
And those are already a collector's item because they seem to sell quick. What post office got?
Apparently that you can't get them in mail anymore. So,
Correct.
yeah. Oh, okay.
We're got the last of summer.
So we're not putting these on the mail.
Thanks for that, Connie. The next thing is an in-camera session. Do I have a motion? Trevor and James. All in favor? Carried. Short recess.